So I've kind of gone halfway through my planned 13 episodes. I guess you can call it a season, whatever you want. But this is not a rest. This is just to kind of see where the line is today. You know, it's not back there in some dusty history book. It's here, it's now, and the First Amendment is being tested in real time.
I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God.
We bled in the fields, we froze in the snow, no shoes on our feet.
So like I said, we're halfway through my 13 episodes, so we're going to take a quick pause, going to reload and make sure the ground we've covered is solid. So far I've laid out 5 foundational stones, I guess you could say. So in the first episode, the foundation of freedom for the republic, so free republic. So core principles, the founders believed liberty flows in a straight line. So that was God, natural law, morality, and limited government. George Washington's 1796 farewell address of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion, and morality are indispensable support. John Adams' 1798, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate of the government of any other. So, little translation, if the people lose moral restraint, government will step in with chains, and we're seeing it. So, little sacred trust, the founders saw themselves as trustees of liberty, not inventors of it. The Declaration itself, rights are endowed by the Creator, which is God, we all know that, not granted by the rulers. The politicians, they think they're freaking rulers. So episode 2 kind of went over the faith and freedom, the wall that wasn't. So this is the whole fake separation of church and state crap. The Jefferson's Wall of Separation. It was a letter to the Danbury Baptists in 1802 meant to protect the church from government intrusion, not erase faith from public life. Early practice proves it. Again, our history's been involved with the Bible since the beginning, even with the covenant with God by the initial pilgrims that landed here. But anyways, Continental Congress 1775 called the prayer and fasting. George Washington's first inaugural 1789 included public prayer and Bible oath. Congress funded chaplains for both House and Senate starting in 1789. State constitutions, many still reference God directly. Again, Massachusetts, a bunch of them. You can go look them up. The idea that faith had no place in politics would have been nonsense to the men who built the system. Excuse me. So episode 3, I covered the 14th Amendment. This is the whole birthright bullcrap, what it really meant. Ratified in 1868 in the shadow of the Civil War. The purpose was to secure citizenship and equal protections for freed slaves who were being denied rights by southern states, Democrats. So the key line in it, not key line pie, key line, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So the subject to the jurisdiction was never meant as a blanket birthright citizenship. Senator Jacob Howard, author of the Citizenship Clause, it excluded foreigners, aliens, and those who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers for nearly 100 years prior to the idiocracy going on. It was understood that's how it was understood. Only in the late 20th century did it get twisted into automatic citizenship, birthright crap for anyone born on U.S. soil, regardless of allegiance. So this twist has fueled the modern day illegal immigration loopholes and this major chain migration that's destroying our nation. Episode 4 went over fraud that's hollowing out our republic, so eating at the roots of it. So the broken covenant, the founders' trust in truth and virtue was was slowly eaten away by corruption. A couple examples I got. Again, go watch the whole episode. But anyways, the yellow journalism in 1890 pushed America into the Spanish-American War on false pretense. Government deception from the Gulf of Tonkin incident, 1964, to the WMDs in Iraq, 2003. They did find WMDs, I am going to say that, but not in the mass quantities that they claimed for us to go to war. So fraud has repeatedly been used to drag America into crazy-ass wars, causing thousands of our brothers and sisters' lives. Cultural betrayal, institutions once trusted, schools, press. That's kind of been ever since the existence of press, actually. But churches shifting from truth-telling to agenda-pushing. Each fraud has been chipping away at our roots, our bond of trust between people and government. It's broken, and I don't know what's going to happen. There's more coming down the line when I go to the next segments, but it's going to be hard to rebuild, even with the schools, even with the press, not just our government, just across the freaking board. It is so broken. And then episode 5, if you missed it, I highly suggest you go watch it. The right to bear arms, our freedom's last safeguard. So the text: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So the founders' intent, arms were about liberty, not hunting, so quit bringing that bullcrap up. And sporting, quit bringing that bullcrap up. It has nothing to do with that crap. So George Mason, 1788, to disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them. Noah Webster, before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed. The Militia Act of 1792. So if you don't know anything, pay attention to this one. A lot of you 2A people, I know you know it, but there's a lot of people who don't. So the Militia Act, 1792, required every able-bodied male citizen to equip himself with a musket, bayonet, cartridge, powder, and flints. That wasn't optional. It was the law, and actually you would get fined if you didn't have your own firearm. So again, it was we the people who were we the militia shall not be infringed. Plain and simple. Supreme Court District of Columbia versus Heller, 2008, confirmed the Second Amendment protects an individual right to arms. The founders put it second for a reason, and it just ensures that when all else fails, that we can still resist tyranny, that we were armed to resist tyranny. So, the theme has been the same. The founders built limits to government power. The government was never meant to run unchecked, and it has been. I think we got complacent just with our grandparents and our parents, just in trusting the government. But that's gotta end. So, if you don't remember the ground already covered, you won't see how far the lines have been pushed.
Welcome home, warriors, what a firefight. 13 hours holding fast through the night, while they sat in shadows hidden from the fray. We fought, we bled, we led the way. Coffee coaster reward, that was our praise for a 13-hour stand and the lives we tried to save. But we still stood tall, remembering their names. Debriefed in Tripoli, shipped to Germany. Our warriors welcomed home, we watched from afar. Silence louder than the mortar fire. One quick breath before DC. Tickets home, bought on our own. One last debrief before going home.
Congress shall make no law representing an establishment of a religion or protecting the free exercise thereof, or bridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of a grievance. So that's 5 protections in one amendment. Let's jump into each one. Going to go through them quick. A lot of people know the First Amendment rights. Some people, anyways. So religion. Founder's intent. Jefferson in 1802. Letter to the Danbury Baptist. The wall of separation, not the separation of church and state, which is a lie. So don't, if you ever see that, don't challenge it every single time because it's bullshit. So anyways, the wall of separation was to keep government out of religion, not to scrub religion out of public life. So everybody, well, not everybody obviously doesn't know this, but early practices kind of proves that there's no such thing as separation of church and state. Continental Congress called for days of prayer and fasting. Washington and Adams both proclaimed national days of thanksgiving to the Almighty God. Some states also tied, as I'm tongue-tied, government to faith. So Massachusetts Constitution required public officials to declare belief in God and a future state of rewards and punishment. So again, it's always been there. Here's some violations. These are local and state violations. So McCollum versus Board of Education. This is in 1948, Illinois. Public schools in Illinois allowed religious classes during public schools in Illinois allowed religious classes during school hours in classrooms. Supreme Court struck it down as unconstitutional. So again, the Illinois tried to ban it, the Board of Education. So the Board of Education in Illinois tried to ban it, but the Supreme Court said, go pound sand. You can't do that. Engel versus Vital. I'm probably saying these things wrong, but anyways, 1962, New York state regents composed a non-denominational prayer for schools. Again, another thing struck down. Government can't write prayers. So that's where the biggest difference is. The state actually wrote it, and the state can't do that. So federal, in the 20th century, federal courts often shifted from preventing government interference in religion to limiting religious expression in public institutions, sometimes overreaching beyond what the founders intended. Again, it's going to happen. Welcome to human beings. Freedom of speech, founders' intent. James Madison, the freedom of the press as one of the great bulwarks. I'm going to screw these up, these words up. Of bulwarks of liberty shall be inviolable. Anyways. Speech was meant as a direct check on government power. Criticism of rulers was not just tolerated, it was expected. But here's some violations that our federal government did. Alien and Seditions Act in 1798, again, pretty early on, made it a crime to publish false, scandalous, and malicious writings against the government. Was used to jail newspapers editors who criticized President Adams, which was a clear violation of the First Amendment. Some state and local ones during World War II. States like Minnesota and Montana passed criminal cinda was something. I don't even want to try that one. Laws that punish anti-war speech. Again, violation. In modern times, cities have arrested street preachers or political protesters on disturbing the peace. Charges when they were simply exercising their free speech. So again, it happens actually a lot. Here's one from 2011. So a Maryland man was tried. Maryland tried. Gee, me Christmas. Maryland tried to punish Westboro Baptist, which they should all just disappear. Westboro Baptist Church for offensive funeral protests, but that court reaffirmed even hateful, offensive speech is protected. So again, unless you're protesting outside of a Planned Parenthood or pro-abortion place, then it's not considered free speech. But whatever. Sorry, I kind of screwed a lot of that one up. But anyway, so number 3, the free press, with the founders' intent. Free press was the watchdog. Madison and others viewed newspapers as the guard dogs against government abuse, which I think we've seen is completely opposite. Depends on who's in office. Hamilton, the liberty of the press consist in the right to publish with impunity, truth with good motives, and for justifiable ends. Yeah, well, they got the impunity part still, but they lack truth and good motives and justifiable ends, that's for sure. But here's some violations from the federal government. Again, the Alien and Seditions Act. Dozens of printers and editors were fined or jailed for criticizing federal officials. Some state and local ones, again, obviously that was overruled. Then state and local during the Civil War era, Union generals sometimes actually themselves went and shut down newspapers. One was Copperhead, that was critical of Abraham Lincoln. So it was Chicago Times, 1863, was closed by General Burnside until Lincoln himself reversed it. So in the South, local sheriffs often, again, Democrats, often seized black-owned presses during Reconstruction to silence voices calling for equality. So freedom of assembly, citizens, the founders' intent, citizens had the right to gather in public peacefully to hold government accountable. Without assembly, petition means little. The founders themselves assembled in defiance of Britain. So without assembly, petition means little. Here's some violations. NAACP versus Alabama, 1958. Alabama tried to force the NAACP to hand over its membership list to intimidate and silence civil rights activists. Supreme Court said, nope, you can't do that. Then also during the civil rights era, cities like Birmingham, Alabama, Democrat-controlled, regularly denied marching permits or arrested peaceful protesters under vague public safety claims. Good job, Democrats. The federal level during World War I, World War II, federal and state governments often banned or cracked down on anti-war assemblies. The Supreme Court later walked back many of those rulings, but the damage has already been done. I'm pretty sure Democrats were in control then too. So the petition. Founders' intent. Petitions meant citizens could formally challenge government without punishment. This right goes back to the Magna Carta and the English Bill of Rights. Jefferson called it the people's, the remonstrance. Again, I try to put the actual words into people say, but they use words that, I don't know. A lot of you people know it, but whatever. There's a lot of words I can't pronounce. But anyways, so there's a way to hold rulers accountable wwithout violence. If you want to know what the words, remonstrance, I think that's how you pronounce it, but REMONSTRANCE. I think it's remonstrance, but anyways. So here's some violations. State and local in the 1800s. Southern states passed the gag rules preventing abolishes petitions. Petitions. See what I mean? Can't pronounce words. From even being read in state legislature, which we all know is wrong. The infamous gag rule in the U.S. House, 1836, 1844, automatically tabled all anti-slavery petitions without discussion. Again, Democrats. John Quincy Adams fought it until it was repealed. Here's some modern examples. Citizens filing petitions against zoning, school policies, or vaccine mandates have been targeted or ignored by local boards. So again, you guys got to fight these things. Sometimes threatened with legal action if they disrupt meetings, even though petitioning is constitutionally protected. So always fight back, people, no matter what. As long as you know what the laws are, what's protected, what's not, you gotta jump into these things. So, every single pillar of the First Amendment, religion, the speech, press, assembly, petition has been attacked, not just in Washington, by the state house itself, city halls, the school boards. The founders knew it would happen, and this is why they wrote these in the First Amendment. Again, the protection, it's there. So the founders have lived through, they lived through the censorship, the crown, licensing of printers, the persecution of dissent. They knew free men must be able to speak, print, worship, gather, and challenge the douchebags that we elect in office. It's I did put up there actually challenge rulers, but they're just douchebags for the most part. Not all of them. There actually are some good people up there, but anyways. So just remember, the First Amendment is the oxygen of the free republic. If you cut that off, everything is going to suffocate. Just remember that. The First Amendment isn't being debated in the classrooms. It was shot in cold blood. On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was assassinated while speaking at Utah Valley University in Utah. So, free speech isn't theoretical anymore. It bled on the ground that night and almost died. So the attack itself, Charlie Kirk was giving a public talk when shots rang out from a rooftop, they say about 200 yards away. Police have identified the shooter. He's a 22-year-old left-wing douchebag. He's tied. They got DNA evidence. They got text message to his girlfriend, boyfriend thing, whatever you want to call it. They found the note threatening Kirk. Prosecutors say he admitted to it. So they know who it is. Again, it's disgusting that just going out and speaking the way Charlie spoke, which was very calm, very collective, and awful, very nice compared to the way the left would speak to him when he was up there talking. But again, that just kind of shows what's going on in our nation. Again, like I said, take a look around on what's going on. The founders would not even recognize America today. You have all kinds of things coming out, even from the FBI. From what I've been told, the field office, in Utah, held information from the director. Is that normal? I don't know. Maybe it's because of the case, but if that's normal from any other kind of investigation, then so be it. If it's not normal, then what the hell's going on? Again, still within our federal government, within the FBI. We saw the news flash to one guy saying this is the guy, and then flash to another one saying this is the guy. You can't trust anything anymore because, again, the freedom of press, it sucks. To me, if they put out false narratives, false stories, they should lose their right to even publish anything. Definitely being on the airwaves. I just disagree. Otherwise, it needs to just be on the main screen saying it's nothing but satire. It's nothing but the the Bumblebee freaking whatever it is website. Because I'm so sick of it. The trust within our nation, even showing from happening with the Charlie Kirk, just the people are always trying to get things out so fast that we get the motives are just spread all over the place and they're false. They're not accurate. We want to know what's going on. That's why I really didn't want to post anything about it because stuff was just going out left and right. I watched the videos. I'm no expert at things, but to me that now they're saying he got shot from the side. Now they're saying this, they're saying that, from my point of view, he got shot in the front and it looked like it actually ricocheted off his armor and went up in that, and unfortunately, hit the side of his neck and it probably entered in. You got all these conspiracy theories out there now. I mean, you can't stop everything, but again, people, sometimes you all are just straight up freaking stupid and ridiculous. You got his closest friends are in his protection detail. You're saying, oh, this guy is, he's pushing signals over this guy. This guy's got a gun underneath his hands. He's doing some John Wick shit, to shoot him in the neck. It's like, come on, man. Why don't you guys stop with the conspiracy bull crap? And again, we don't really want to trust the FBI, but Charlie Kirk, or who he is, it ain't going to be just the federal government doing an autopsy. I'm pretty sure his family's going to have an autopsy done on him, to kind of figure out exactly how he was hit and stuff like that. But, again, what was attacked and what was killed that day was the First Amendment by the left. If they don't like what you have to say, they will kill you. And you can see what's going on with the media themselves. The information war it's just nuts. It's insane on what's going on. I mean, you have ABC News, a reporter, Matt Doucheman, it's Gutman, I believe, but describes the suspect's private text as very touching and very heartbreaking on so many levels. Really, dude? The dude just freaking killed somebody, killed a father in front of his wife and fucking daughter, and that's what the news is going to put out. You know, and you got mainstream covering, you know, it's mixed. It's, you know, speculation about the motives because all they're pushing out. You can tell it wasn't, the left is just so disgusting and they're so pathetic. You know, that honestly, again, they should be losing their freaking, their journalism license. They should not have the freedom of press because all they're spewing is bullshit, lies, division, and everything else. I get it. You know, Fox News kind of does it too, but if these news agencies are doing it, they're just destroying this nation. Like, obviously, I've reported, if you go back, watch my other episode, they've been pushing false narratives since the beginning of time, since our founders even gave them the First Amendment right, which again needs to I think we need more restrictions on that damn thing, especially when it comes to these fake journalists. People that want to call themselves journalists, but they don't push actual journalism. They push opinion pieces, lies, propaganda. But again, CIA, they love that crap. You know, you got entertainers, you know, that mocked the father's death. Again, Charlie Kirk's death, posted jokes celebrating it online. You have Philip Mickelson, a pro golfer, publicly called out the disturbing trend of people cheering Kirk's assassination. You know, it's sad that you even got to people even got to call these people out. You know, why would you celebrate the assassination of somebody? Honestly, from the things that I've been seeing, it's because a lot of them don't even know what he was talking about. People say, oh, he's, you know, division, hate, transphobic, Islamophobic. You know, just because you don't trust a religion doesn't make you Islamophobic. Because if that's the case, look at Muslims themselves against Christianity and any other religion, any other government. You want to talk about hate? That's the religion of straight up freaking hate. You know, they slaughter Christians across the country. They slaughter anybody that's not Muslim not across the country, across the world. You know, they just boldly attack. They just kidnapped a freaking Christian girl. Now I could have forgot where. Again, it's only because she was Christian why she was kidnapped. You know, he never preached hate. He just preached biblical ideology and facts. That's all he preached. Just because you consider it hate doesn't mean it's hate. What you were doing, mocking him and, you know, making fun of it, you know, glorifying it, that's actually hate. I mean, again, you had a little girl who actually saw her dad die in front of her, and you people want to mock that. And honestly, it's, you know, your consequences, you know, some people that celebrated his death online, they've been fired from the jobs, you know, which is good. Military being discharged, which is good. Federal employees being fired, which is good. You know, you people are fucking just straight up disgusting. I mean, it's sickening. And, you know, the people that are going down and defacing the memorials and stuff like that of Charlie Kirk, you know, even if it wasn't even him, like even when Biden, you know, got diagnosed with cancer. You didn't see, you know, all of us out there celebrating. I know I didn't. You know, maybe if it was Hillary Clinton, I probably would, but that's more personal. That doesn't do anything really with politics. But again, I still probably wouldn't do it because life is life. Once it's gone, it's gone. There's two things you can never get back in this world, and that's time and that's life. Once that's gone, it's gone. So, you know, I'm to a point where I think, honestly, I'm going to say it, violence needs to meet violence. These people doing these things, shut them down as fast as you possibly can with any means necessary, in my opinion. I'm freaking sick of it. I'm tired of the left just being a bunch of freaking douchebags. I mean, they're honestly, they're just horrible freaking individuals, and they should not be in this country. There's no, you cannot live with those people. There there is no common ground with those type of people, plain and simple. I mean, it's kind of nice seeing there are some people on Democrats on the left that are just like, holy crap, I didn't realize how bad it was. I'm glad you're opening your eyes. You're seeing the hate and the disgust from the left and the Democrats. I mean, it is just, it goes beyond politics. It really does. And the fact that you're allowing politics to even divide a nation like this from your complete lack of respect for life, it's disgusting. And again, you do not belong in America. You don't. There's no room for you here. That's more like a mentality in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. That's that mentality. You'd fit perfect in there, but of course you wouldn't last a freaking day because they slaughter your ass as soon as you open your stupidity and your ideology, because they're smarter than you are. That's why they don't allow you in their nation. So you people are just freaking stupid, man. You know, I'm done ranting on this. It's just disgusting on what happened in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and just seeing the way the left is. And again, violence needs to meet violence, plain and simple, regardless if it's speech or not. That's just me. I'm just tired of it. Don't really care. People say, oh, it's going to hurt you run for mayor. I don't really care. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to speak my freaking mind, regardless if it's going to hurt me for running for freaking office or not. I don't freaking care. I'm running because shit needs to change. Our country needs to come back to where it is. Sorry, to where it should be, not where it is. I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole that's going into a freaking dumpster, man. But, you know, the first thing you got to understand, you know, what free speech really means. You know, in America, you know, the default rule is that speech is protected. Even when it's offensive, hateful, or shocking, the Supreme Court has said again and again, the government cannot ban speech just because it's unpopular or ugly. But there are limits. Only a few narrow categories of speech fall outside the First Amendment. I'm going to go over a couple of the definitions. You know, incitement and today's violence, you know, hard line, you know, tying Kirk. I'm trying to tie Charlie Kirk's event to this whole thing. But when Charlie Kirk was shot dead on stage, the shooter didn't just end the man's life. You know, he sent a message. Words are now worth killing for. That's what the left just said. Even with Trump, the exact same thing. They try to kill Trump. Words are worth killing over. That's what they said. So across the country, we're hearing more words used, you know, not as debate, but as fuel for violence. Look at the Democrat Party. Look at their politicians. Look at the hate that they freaking spew out of their freaking holes. Usually I want to say something else, but I am trying to be a little nice. So the definition, so the incitement is defined. So the definition, the words meant to push people to commit violence right now. So, and not them again saying, praising Charlie, I'm glad he died. That's not pushing people to commit violence. Kind of wish it was, because anyways, there's some case laws. Again, I'm just doing this to kind of protect you guys out there for the most part. Again, do what you want. Nothing's illegal till you get caught or you don't really care about the consequences. There's a Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1969. The court drew the line. Speech can't be punished unless it's directed to incite and likely to produce imminent lawless action. And again, I'm saying a lot of these people, what they say and how they do it, I don't know how it's protected when it will likely produce imminent lawless action. That's just me. Again, I'm no attorney, but that's how I see a lot of crap that they're doing. Even with them destroying memorials and stuff like that, how is that not likely to produce imminent lawless action? This should not be covered. Anyways, example of excitement, a speech shouts, go burn down the courthouse right now. If the people do it, that's not protected speech. But saying, I hate the courthouse, it deserves to be burnt down someday, or it needs to be burnt or whatever, it's ugly, but it's protected. So it's kind of like going, again, go kill that person. Obviously, you can't do that. If you say that person believes deserves to be killed, again, or unalived, how the douchebags want to say it now, unalived. No, he was killed. He wasn't unalived. He was freaking killed. He was assassinated. So after Charlie Kirk's murder, some online voices and even public figures mocked his death and cheered it on social media. You can find posts that don't just celebrate, some egg others on to attack conservatives, Christians, or political opponents in real life. And that's not being removed from what I've saw. Some of it's still up there. Celebrities with huge followings sometimes throw out violent language, jokes, even when they say it's humor. So those words can plant seeds, and again, people will act on it. Kind of like the politicians. So protected offensive speech, criticism, even hateful rants, as long as they don't call for immediate violence. What's not protected, direct calls to action. Somebody shoot him now or attack that group tonight. That is illegal. But the line to me it's blurred. The left in many cases has used fiery rhetoric, punch a Nazi, shut them down, make them afraid, and people are taking them seriously and literally. So again, it's insane. They don't even know what a Nazi is. They don't even know what a fascist is, people. They're so blind and stupid. It's their idiocracy is beyond belief. It's disgusting. I know you feel it. I know I feel it. It seems like they're more protected than we are, which they kind of are in a way, because they actually have attorneys that will jump on board and help them out, because they know that a lot of us got money because we work for a living, and they know like our attorneys won't go after them because they ain't got no damn money in the first place. It's kind of sad, It's disgusting what's going on here. Senator Cruz, after his assassination, that he said, even speech that's ugly, even offensive, is still protected. The only time the First Amendment doesn't apply is when it's crossed into incitement or true threats. And again, them coming out to a memorial or a grievance vigil, to me, them coming out and saying things, that's inciting violence. That's just me. That's just how I feel. You're purposely coming out there to do wrong. To sit there and say that's covered free speech, again, just like the Westboro Baptist bullcrap church coming out to the funerals, they're doing that just to me to incite. You're going to incite somebody. But it comes to you to have the discipline to hold back. To me, they should have the discipline to not come and incite that kind of violence, because that's what you're doing. That's just me. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not telling you guys to go do it, but I'm willing to, I'll whatever. I'll pay the price. That's just me. I'm so sick of these freaking people. So just knowing the line, is how you protect yourself. Speak boldly, but don't give agitators or prosecutors an opening. Truth is a weapon, but threats and incitement will only get that weapon turned back on you. So thought I'd throw some of that out there. I had some more stuff. I'm just disgusted with these people. I had more cases and stuff like that down here. I think you guys get it. It's sad. But, every time tragedy strikes, the reflex is to control speech. The founders gave us speech to fight power with words. Now in America, words are being answered with bullets. That should wake every citizen up. And the founders were clear. When violence comes, the people are not helpless. The same Constitution that protects speech also protects the right to keep and bear arms, because they knew there are times when only force can be stopped with force.
American military families' journey began with a singular mission: to support veterans grappling with PTSD and suicidal thoughts. This compassionate and determined initiative has evolved into a charity that has touched countless lives. The dedicated team of AMF has paved a path of hope and recovery, placing boots on the ground to personally reach out to struggling veterans before it is too late. Their approach encompasses everything from community meetings to one-on-one therapy sessions and interventions, creating a lifeline for those in dire need. This hands-on method has proved successful, offering a safety net for numerous veterans. Over the years, AMF has organized events to raise both funds and awareness, showcasing the critical role each of us can play in this mission. As they celebrate 2 decades of life-saving work, they invite everyone to join a special event on July 12th. This milestone commemorates 20 years of dedication, underscoring the importance of supporting veterans and their families. It serves as a celebration of life, hope, and the unwavering spirit of those who have served. Join in this significant occasion, honoring the past and inspiring the future.
They had this thing written out completely different for the you can just kind of going over again the First Amendment stuff. Had a whole segment, on free speech readiness and all this, but I'm telling you guys, you better start talking to your kids. You better start protecting your kids. Start teaching your kids how to defend and protect themselves. Start training. Start being situationally aware. Again, another person somehow got onto a rooftop, took another shot. Regardless of your stupid conspiracy theories, regardless of the shot came from that way, this way, that, it was still somebody on a damn roof and nobody spotted him. Well, there were people actually that spotted him, but they didn't say anything. A couple other episodes I talked about, I actually wasn't episodes, it was another video that I did. Somebody always says something before they're going to do something. These people that they're telling should be held accountable. My daughter came to me and talked about how she overheard kids talking about a gun in either in their school or another school. She was texting me. I said, tell her, go tell the teacher. She was kind of hesitant, but she ended up doing it. Well, come to find out, it was a kid at the high school had a gun. So again, tell your kids to freaking start saying something to somebody and start training, knowing how to do first aid. And, I don't know if they've said this in the news or not, but Charlie Kirk, he was deceased probably within less than 30 seconds. That's a fact. He was not alive when they rushed him to the vehicle. He was already there. He did not survive that trip. He was gone within seconds of him hitting the ground. It's just a fact. No matter even the first aid was right there, that wound, there's not a whole lot you can do, even if you're inside the operating room. You can't put a tourniquet on a neck, which I heard somebody put on there. You can't do that. That is about the dumbest. Don't ever put a tourniquet. You're just going to kill them anyways. You put a tourniquet on their neck. But, I can probably say I think the grateful thing that it did happen quickly for him. He didn't have to suffer. But the fact that it happened in front of his kids is just disgusting. Start having those conversations with your kids. I don't think it's going to get any prettier. I think it's going to get uglier before it gets better in this country, just because of the hateful rhetoric from the right and from the left. But obviously we've seen it. It's mostly from the left, where they're the ones that are calling for violence, and they're ones actually committing the violence, regardless of what this national stats that want to say that the right wing are majority of the shooters, majority of whatever. I really don't care. We see it. We know what's going on. We know the truth. The FBI can't lie to us anymore. This stupid agenda, even when they were saying that the parents were a threat to our democracy, white male men were a threat. Well, actually, white male men seem to be a threat to our democracy, especially from the left. Again, this episode was going to go a different way, but I just couldn't. I had to, put my own thing out there. I just kind of hope, you all are paying attention. Again, that doesn't call going, looking for it, going and starting things, going and pushing it, but don't stand for it no more. That's all. That's what I'm saying. Stop standing for it. Start standing up. Start fighting back. Start pushing back, and let them know the line's been crossed. To me, it's been crossed a long time ago. I think I've said it a couple of times, but don't just talk about the First Amendment. Train to defend it with your words, with your wits, and possibly even with your life, because they're going to take it. They've proven it. Truth will always draw fire. We know that. The louder the truth, the harder the push to silence it. They've been doing it for years, and we've stayed quiet. If they're aiming at you, it means you've hit the target, you're over the target, but watch your back. Watch your back. So here's a scripture, John 8:32. And will you know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So, give it a quick prayer. Lord, give us the courage to stand for truth. Give us the courage for stand to what's right. Give us the courage not to back down when the evil has us in their sight. Give us the strength to always protect our nation and our freedom. Give us the wisdom that we need. Guard those who are standing in the public square. Give them the wisdom, and give these people wisdom and truth. Open their eyes. In Jesus' name, amen. This is the Modern Patriot Podcast. I'm your host, John Tiegen. Never let a lie go unchallenged, and always move forward.
This is the ground God has given. This is our ground forged by pain, by the blood of the lost and the weight of the chains. We fight, we build, we don't bow down. This is our soul, this is our sound. Through ash and echo, we carry the flame. This is our ground. Brothers met brothers on opposite lines. The flag torn in half, soaked in rivers of time. From Gettysburg Hills to freedom's last flame, we rose from the ash to